We're live. Okay, super. So,
Internet.
uh, Brent Fikowski, dude, you're pretty fit apparently.
Yeah, sure am.
What I mean, I wrote down a couple things that I wanted to ask you about in no particular order. Um, but obviously, I think probably more than any of the other athletes, you've been really open with sort of what your experience was like at the games, through those daily reflections that you put out. I think that's probably a really good place to start because nobody else really does that. Like, where did that come from? What makes you want to do that sort of thing?
Um, I did that the first time back in 2014 after regionals. I remember reading Rob Forte did he did a write-up of his weekend experience at the 2013 CrossFit Games, the one with the thruster legless rope climb, among another bunch of stuff. And I remember reading it and just really enjoying it. And after 2014, I decided to write one, and I've done it at a few events, mostly for my own benefit. I typically recap weekends. I often just record myself talking, just sort of for posterity, because what happens is I'll go back and watch the videos a couple times, and then my memories get replaced with this video footage, which is kind of unfortunate because I have this unique experience to be on the competition floor, and then after a couple months, a year, all I can remember is the video that I watch. And so I would just record it, and sometimes it's a good way for me to just sort of come to terms with how I feel about things, whether that's good or bad, and just to accept them. And so I didn't really go into this weekend intending to do that. I think because the first day was such a secret and no one really knew what went on, I just decided to post it. I was on the plane and there was nothing else to do. So I just decided to write something up, and I was actually just going to write it as a note, I think, on my phone. I was just typing away. People around me were sleeping. I couldn't sleep. And then I was like, screw it, I'll post it. And then it was really well received. Lots of comments, and people loved it. And a few of the athletes even mentioned that they had read it and they really enjoyed it. And people wanted it again. So you got to give the people what they want.
It's very true. I think there's the draw there is really interesting because there really isn't anybody who offers insights like that. I mean, Lucas does a pretty good job of doing kind of like a recap at the end of regionals and a recap at the end of the games each year of kind of how his weekend went. But generally, the athletes tend to err on the side of, hey, it was a great weekend, we'll see you next year, or like training, like back to the drawing board, like really want to thank my sponsors. But the inside view into the going-ons of like the mindset of an athlete, I think is a new thing for people. So it makes sense that it took off. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah. I tried to post quite a bit of Instagram content throughout the weekend too, just because people want to see it. And I mean, you got to strike while the iron's hot, man. I mean, if you can make, I can do the social media stuff without it really affecting me mentally. Like, it doesn't distract me. I can just post it as like a separate part of the weekend, and it doesn't like affect me really negatively or positively. I can just do it and know it's, I can just do it. And so I figure I might as well, if people want to see photos of me and kind of want to follow along, and if I can get a couple more followers on Instagram that want to watch me, I mean, it sounds good to me. Like, I don't know. Why not?
Did you keep metrics on what that looked like? Did you get like a starting spot and what your Instagram account was like after the weekend was over?
No, I have a general idea. I think before regionals I was at 9,000, and then about a week after regionals I was at about 15. And then I think I might have even went up more than that. I think before the games started I was at about 20, and now I'm at about 31 or 32.
That's not a bad. I mean, you had 50% increase over the course of one weekend, just by being honest and open. That's pretty cool.
And I'm just posting a lot of photos. I gave my I have a friend, Jay Borden, there with a camera, and I gave him my Instagram password for the weekend. I was like, if you get a good photo, like, I'm gonna be busy, just post it and say like, that was fun, #CrossFit Games, like just something simple. Don't like try to pretend you're me for too long. And so he did that, which I was grateful for. And I got a lot of posts up there, and I mean, people want to see it, like, so I mean, they can unfollow me if they're getting tired of it. So.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I've learned, it's that CrossFitters love seeing people work out and then also following along with just like the shenanigans of their favorite athletes. So I don't think you're going to be missing a lot of followers. I feel like people aren't going to unfollow you once you start posting.
It would be an interesting like thing to do. Someone with like a lot of followers to try to get people to unfollow them, because I don't think it really happens. You know what I mean? Like, if you posted a bunch of garbage for a week or two, would you actually see a decrease in followers? I think you'd see an increase. Maybe not at the same rate if you posted good stuff, but just content helps. Obviously, better content's better than bad content. Anyway, we're off topic, but
no, you're right. At a certain point, people are just going to be like, they'll start tagging their friends to be like, look, Fikowski's lost his fucking mind.
I would just mean like blurry photos.
I just mean literally like bad stuff, like not even
like intentionally bad stuff, but just like a blurry photo of a street and be like, I went for a walk today, or like a really bad picture of me doing like strict presses and that like just blurry, and then just like just bad photos without any real like message. Or I guarantee if you just posted like 3 of those a day for a month, you'd get more followers. It's not like people would start unfollowing you because you're like, man, this account's going to crap. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like maybe people would catch on and not be super pumped about just getting blurry, shitty photos all the time. But if you want to try. So let's see. You placed 4th. Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
That went really well. Canada this year just crushed it. You and Pat Vellner with your northern pale skin just coming into the heat.
Yeah.
Were you sore during the week at all?
Yeah. I was the most sore from the 7-kilometer trail run. My calves were just sore the whole weekend, and they were just turning a corner and starting to get less sore on Saturday, and then the box jump overs made them worse. Other than that, I mean, my quads are a bit sore. I think some people's quads got sore from the squat clean ladder. I didn't make it very far into it, so it didn't really do anything to me. Your arms are a bit sore Saturday morning waking up after doing Murph, but it wasn't too bad once you warmed up. Just mostly just globally tired. The first 2 nights, like Wednesday night and Thursday night, we had like no sleep. We had like 4 or 5 hours of sleep both of those 2 nights. And then even the rest of the weekend, I mean, like Saturday night, I left the stadium at 9 or 9:30, and then we had to be back there at I think 7 a.m. or 7:30 or something. I can't remember, but it was basically, it meant like best case scenario, you were getting 8.5 hours, which I would have preferred more if I was given the choice. But so I was just sleep deprived mostly, but I wasn't too sore. Yeah.
Yeah. So you came out of the weekend not feeling not too jacked up, mostly just tired.
No, I was just mostly just very tired. That's I think a testament to the programming, more so than like my own like recovery or preparation. And I mean, obviously that played a part, and I think some people were obviously more beat up than I was, but yeah, that's how it was. I think for most of us, I think most people turned up okay. I think it was a pretty injury-free year. Besides, Yonakowski came in with an injury, and then Alethea Boone hurt her Achilles. Jen Smith came in with foot problems, and they got worse.
Do you think that's a new thing for this year? Like, you think the athletes are kind of starting to catch up with the volume that the games call for? Like, is that why kind of most of them are walking away not feeling just completely run over?
I don't really know, man. I honestly think it has to do more with the selection of the events, and just how they're sprinkled in there. I've been equally prepared for a lot of different weekends. Let's call them like regionals and the OC Throwdown and Wadapalooza. And the slight differences in the programming make a big difference as far as, let's call it just DOMS, like delayed onset muscle soreness, stiffness. It really comes down to how the workouts are programmed. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I mean, the games are like kind of, they have a, like a infamy for being just brutal and soul crushing and devastating. So it's interesting to see that kind of there are more devastating weekends out there, and almost the games are kind of programmed in a way to take care of people in a general
This year, I mean, I felt like that this year. I mean, maybe some people would disagree with me. It was still really hard. You were tired. It was tough mentally to push in all the events for sure. I mean, you were still really sore. I mean, I say that now, it's Thursday now, so I don't feel so bad now, but I was pretty sore, I guess, on the weekend, pretty stiff. Yeah.
Just grabbing that PVC pipe for a couple pastors, like, oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
What did you do Sunday night as your celebration of like the games kind of winding down and off season starting?
We went to the games after party, which was in the Marriott. It was all right. I dressed up as Richard Simmons. I got to find a picture of that. It was pretty sweet. It was fun. There were like Patrick Bellman was there. A couple other games guys were there. Zach Carcetti and some of my Australian friends who came there to cheer me on. It was fun. I didn't go off the handle. I had a couple beers. Stayed up pretty late, and then the next day just spent it with family on the beach, parents and stuff. It was good.
Did you get a chance to watch any of the other athletes competing? Like maybe afterwards, you've maybe seen some of the highlights and stuff, but
during the weekend,
yeah.
There was a TV near the warm-up area, so you might watch a little bit of the first two heats just to see like for instance on the event number 14, this with the ski erg and the sled pull, everyone kind of watched like how heavy is that sled? Like we just don't know. Like it all depends on the friction on the floor, how heavy 300 pounds is. So you need to watch that, or you kind of watch like, all right, well, definitely the ring handstand push-up. Like what are people getting away with? Like what's you just had no idea. There was a standard, but it was still like in the briefing, we were all left with a bit of uncertainty. Like, okay, well, so what exactly do we have to do? Like, what are we going to get away with? So yeah, you'd watch a bit of that. I never really watched a full, event. I wasn't like cheering anyone on. I think most of us watched the women's finale as we were sort of starting to get warmed up for our finale. Kind of wanted to know how Tia did and that sort of thing. But yeah.
I was curious, like if you had a favorite moment from like a different athlete competing or kind of from the competition as a fan, which I guess would be really difficult to kind of suss that out, since you're competing the same weekend.
Yeah, not really. I mean, there was nothing that really I could see going on that, you know what I mean? I just didn't really see it from that perspective. I was really proud of Tia Claire Toomey. Sam Briggs was pretty incredible all weekend. She seemed to be kind of a mother hen to a lot of the competitors, like handing out water after she had finished and that sort of thing. She was just very supportive of everyone and sort of making maybe doing little things to hopefully give some of the other rookies, et cetera, to have a positive experience. It seemed like she was invested in that selflessly, which was quite nice to see.
Is there any sort of like weird, unknown behind the scenes thing about the games that people would be interested in?
Okay. I guess like around the athlete area, there'd be a lot of people that like, we use the term, my coach and I, it's sort of an Australian term, frothers. Like they're frothing over, like they're, oh my gosh, like drooling over someone. And so if you were near like the warm-up area, you'd be frothing over a lot of people, like Miranda Olroyd's walking around and like all the famous coaches. And then even like, I don't know, other people seem to find their way back there that, are famous within our sport, I suppose, that are just kind of chilling. And let's see, what else is going on? The athlete area is pretty sweet. Like, we get to sit in this little air-conditioned sort of tent and we're all just lounging around. There's a TV, and so we're watching, the teams compete a bit, and just there's no cameras back in that area either, so that wouldn't be ever on like sit on behind the scenes kind of thing. So people are swearing more, I guess. And It's a pretty good time. It kind of reminded me of like, playing volleyball, and we were all on the same team, and everyone was. I think there's definitely a feeling of camaraderie at the games that isn't the same at regionals. I think regionals is pretty serious. People are there to get the job done and try to make the games. Whereas at the games, even for the guys that are gunning for the podium in the top spots, it's a bit more relaxed. It's sort of like, well, we know this is a crazy weekend. We know anything can happen. There's plenty of time for us to focus on the goal. But I think for most of the weekend, everyone is pretty relaxed. Like Ben Smith is a really nice guy, and he would like genuinely ask some of the rookies, like, how's your weekend, man? Like, you having fun? Like, how is it? Like Ben's so nice, and he would just kind of say stuff like that. And, I don't really, you don't really see that at regionals.
Yeah, he's been to like 77 games in a row. So I think he's seen and done it all at this point.
Yeah. He's a guy that he truly loves the sport, but just sport. And, he just is just, loves to compete and loves to be there. It's refreshing. He has a really good attitude about it all.
I guess it would be really surprising if Ben Smith turned out to be a big diva.
No, he's not at all. No, none of the men really were. And if they were, I wouldn't tell you. So.
Smart man. Got to keep those followers.
Yeah,
so we talked briefly, like right after the games were over, about your off season, and you made it sound really boring. But I'm sure that's kind of part of the process of kind of coming down from the games and ramping back up for 2017. So, like, what does your off season actually look like?
I've got to talk to my coach again. I'm trying to make a focus this off season. So I have a job, and so I can't just take every week off that I want to and go somewhere. So when I do go somewhere this year, I would prefer most of those trips to, in fact, be back to where I grew up in Alberta to see my family. I haven't been back to Lethbridge, which is sort of where I grew up. It's been over 2 years. Just been busy with work, and then all my travel, I travel for CrossFit. So, that's a priority. And then I think that if I get invited to the Invitational, I would love to do that. If that happens, that would be something I'd like to do. And then I potentially might compete at Wodapalooza on a team again. I'm not set on that, but I'm considering it. Defend the title. And then yeah, probably just the open regionals and hopefully the games. I think that I've kind of experienced most the other competition venues that this sport allows, and I think that focusing on qualifying again and then crushing the games, to me, is more important and going to be more enjoyable, that process, than trying to balance that with doing 3 off-season competitions. So that's my intent right now, and I like the idea of just having more time to train and having more time to focus on my job and the company here, and then going home and vacationing with them, but still like hammering training. I'm not gonna relax, but I think it makes more sense to me, and I would be more satisfied at the end of the year if I made it back to the games and did well than if I had tried to balance it with doing a bunch of off-season comps and maybe it not working out. It's just a risk I can't take. So.
Do you have an idea of what your training is going to look like over the next few months, like leading into, like, do you just take a month off of doing everything and just kind of ride your bike around, or what?
Yeah, I have to talk to my coach again about that and determine what we're going to do for the next month. It'll definitely be pretty easy. If I do anything for the next month, I won't be doing any. It'll pretty much everything would be slow, eccentric, concentric stuff. So bodybuilding type stuff, pause squats. I'm not going to be like rebounding out of a bunch of heavy squat cleans and doing touch and go deadlifts, or probably wouldn't be doing any double unders and no kipping ring muscle ups. And if anything, it's going to be strict stuff and skill work. If we do it all, and it won't be, probably at the most it would be 4 or 5 times a week at the most, maybe even 3. So I need to talk to him again. Priority number 1 right now is catch up on sleep. I'm sleep deprived still. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm not in a rush. It's kind of like we said after the games, or sorry, after regionals. There's so much stuff to do. It was like, oh, I got to work on all the stuff. And he said, remember, Brent, you just won regionals. Like, you're already better than most guys. So, you don't have to beat your head into a wall to try to get good enough to do well at the games. Like, you're already good. And so even now, like, yeah, I've got so many things I want to work on, but I do have to remember still, like, I'm chasing small percentages, so I don't need to try to grind myself to dust for 12 months. I'm already really good. So
that would probably be a little detrimental to your fitness too if you suddenly decided to kind of change up your entire approach and like Hepnerize yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, realistically, what we did last year seemed to work. I went from not being able to make it to winning regionals and coming fourth at the games. So we can really do the exact same thing, but now I'm just a little better. So that same process should work quite well. The only thing I'm going to do this year is potentially sneak in some more things that will benefit really only events at the CrossFit Games. As an example, like, some running technique work, not necessarily for a lot of volume, but after regionals was done, I met up with 2 running coaches in the area, a sprinter and a long distance coach. And I realized, like, how much work I need on those 2 things as skills. The pieces are there. Like, I'm powerful, therefore my sprinting is decent. I'm pretty aerobic, therefore my running is good. As we saw at the games, I did well in that event. But the technical side of things, it's almost like a foreign movement to me, as far as like doing it properly, like the real way it should be done. So I think putting in some work with that as skill work, but not as, I'm running like 10K a week or anything like that. That would take away from my squat. But that's something I'm gonna talk to my coach about, and we're gonna find a balance hopefully. But other than that, same as last year.
How, if at all, is your sort of like life as a semi-professional CrossFit Games athlete? How's that changed since since Monday? It's been a few days, but how's it changed? If it has,
it hasn't really changed yet. I would imagine it would. It will change in some ways. Obviously, anytime I go into a CrossFit gym, it will be a different reaction than it ever has been before. It'll be pretty hard to, just to quietly go about my business. Obviously, within the area, that will change in a couple weeks. It'll go back to the way it was, to a certain extent, I hope. But, anytime I travel somewhere, I'll probably get stopped a little more. But nothing else has really changed. I don't really see the need for it to change. I might, I don't really know. I walked down the street today and no one knew anything. So, pretty sure Rich Froning can too in most places, and there might be the occasional person, but it's not that. It'll never really be that way. So, like, do you know who won the Ironman this year? Who's the best triathlete in the world?
No clue.
No clue. So there you go.
Dude, I barely even know who the members of Mayhem's team are. You want me to know who won the Ironman triathlon? Come on.
Yeah. So it's there's a lot of sports in the world where in that community they're incredibly famous. The best mountain biker. X Games. There's a lot of people could walk down the street anonymous. There's just a very few select sports. So yeah, it hasn't really changed anything. Obviously, I've had a lot of messages from people I know and don't know saying congratulations, etc. But that's about it.
What about sponsors and stuff? I mean, I know you've got a full-time gig, and that's kind of unique in the CrossFit Games space. But a lot of people tend to try and get sponsors onto their side as quickly as possible, or try and kind of help out. I'm not sold on, like, the way I read you isn't that you're looking to quit your gig and kind of become a full-time athlete. So I mean, what does that even look like?
Yeah. So I'm definitely not quitting my job. My job just keeps getting better. It's really good here. So luckily I can balance both, and I intend to do that. And then, I want to get some sponsors, and I will. I've been talking to some people, and I'm going to kind of strategize what what brands, you know, I can align myself with that fit my profile and stuff. There have been, you know, it's tough to say like right now exactly who, but hopefully some names that you've heard in the space before, and then hopefully some that are a little different than what you've seen any CrossFitter sponsored by before. Maybe we'll see. I've got a few ideas, and some companies that I've talked to already, and some companies that I'm looking, trying to find a way to get in touch with. So it's exciting that I did well, because I'm looking forward to this end of things, and maybe you know, helping kind of grow my brand, and then you know, helping other companies grow their brand and grow with them. And so it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to that side of things. Yeah.
You should be the first athlete to like NASCARize your regional and open. Yeah, just like logos all over your shirt during your open videos. Just you know, put banners everywhere.
Yeah, tattoos. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna. Yeah, I've got to figure out. You know, I want to got to strike while the iron's hot, and there's some great companies out there that I'm proud to work with. And I mean, if they want to attach themselves to my success, and I think that's great. Like right now, I'm probably not going to NASCARize the shit out of it, but I mean, I'll make something work. But yeah, I mean, right now it's just local companies. So there's a chiropractor that helps me, Align Chiropractic, and then like a paleo food, like ready-made meals company. And they've been working with me since I arrived in Kelowna almost. You know, I actually just talked to one of them, and I'm like, what can I do to help? Like, what's, you know, have I done anything that's got you business, or what else do you think I can do? So I just want to have that relationship with them and anyone else. So.
If you had to choose, I mean, you don't have to be really specific. I'm going to give you like a hypothetical, but if you had to choose between a company that rhymes with Schmeebach, company that rhymes with Schneike.
I don't know, man. We'll see. There's a lot of things that go into deciding who you want to align with, right? There's a lot of factors, so we'll see.
That's a very smart answer. It's very good.
I mean, they both have a lot of good athletes, and they both, you know, the athletes I know that work with both of them seem to be really happy with what they do. I like, you know, both their products, so we'll see. If either of them are interested, I guess we'll see.
Sweet. Well, you know, we are excited to see you do well. Like I've been doing these interviews with you. Probably it's been, I think, 2 years now. I think last year before regionals as well, we spoke. Mm-hmm. So, you know, obviously I have a vested interest in seeing you succeed, because it lets me be like a super hipster about it and be like, well, I knew about Fikowski before you guys knew about Fikowski.
That's right.
So it's very cool to see kind of like a fresher take on the athlete's perspective, like kind of more open and you know, also less about you know, I'm quitting my job and this is everything that I do and I work out 9 hours a day, and more about like, well, I'm just training really smart and I still really enjoy my day job, and you know, I'm doing this because I love to compete and get fitter type stuff. So yeah, that's refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I have had people ask, and I will continue to have people ask, like, you know, now that you can probably make enough money just to train, will you do that? And obviously there's a temptation for that. And if I hated my job, I'd probably consider it. But, you know, I always say, like, man, there's a lot of Olympians that hold full-time jobs, a lot of Olympians. Like, I think most Olympians are actually below, like, the poverty line in most of their countries. They, like, just scrape by, right? And they're the best in the world. So, you know, I don't think that it's necessary just to do it. Obviously, in some ways it would help, but I'm not sure if it would be even the best decision for me anyway, just from a stress perspective. And I mean, you know, what I mean, it would be pretty devastating if I was to, you know, train all year full time, quit my job that I love, and then regional events come out and they're just like the worst events imaginable for me, and I get a little sick or I get like a little injury, and it's kind of like, well, what did I just do all that for? You know. Not to, I mean, it's an admirable thing to put all your eggs in one basket and believe in yourself and kind of risk it for the biscuit. But I still do that in a way, like I'm still dedicating. So it's not like I'm I'm like being, oh, you know, I don't really care. So if I don't make it, whatever. I'm not like that. Like, you know, if I don't make it, it's because I'm not good enough. I'm not going to blame it because, like, well, if I didn't have a full-time job, I'd be all you guys. But it's not like that at all.
God, it would be so much better if you know how many followers you would have on social media if you were actually like that? If you're legit just like, well, if I actually trained, I would totally beat the shit out of all of you.
Yeah, no, I don't, like, you know, that's not why any of those guys beat me or didn't beat me. It's just, you know, those are just this is the life I have, and this is how good I am. That's it. So.
Well, that's cool. That's good to hear. I'm glad that you're starting to feel recovered. I'd heard horror stories of athletes after last year's games, like kind of it would take them like 6 to 7 weeks before they felt like even any sort of normal again. So the fact that you're only a few days out and you're starting to feel back to normal, if a little sleep deprived, is probably a huge positive for the long term.
Yeah, I kind of wish that I'd gotten 2 really good nights of sleep, because sleep is so important for recovery. Hopefully that doesn't. It's nothing that I can obviously maintain over the next few days, but you know, obviously that initial, like what you eat right after your workout, or that's the sleep you get after your big triathlon, I think is pretty key. So not getting that isn't ideal. I'm a bit bummed about that, but life goes on.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a busy time, and probably the last thing you want to do is kind of take away more time from your family and your personal life right now. But I appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone watching appreciated it too.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate the chat.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you soon. Take care, bud.
All right, take it easy. Bye.
Later.